This podcast is brought to you by members of the Portland community. Welcome to This Is Us Portland podcast, our local community conversation. We are the host, Mary Pont, Director of Youth Services, and Allison Behnke, Outreach Coordinator.
Our conversations will cover topics of interest and concern to all members of our community. We will be joined monthly by people who bring their voices of experience and knowledge to our roundtable. Topics of discussion will cover what deeply matters in our town of Portland.
Good morning. This is Mary Pont, and this is our September This Is Us podcast. And Allie Behnke is here with me today.
Morning.
To introduce our guest for today.
So we have Amy Michalowski with us. She's a sleep consultant and specialist. She's here to join us because we've gone back to school and we're hearing some news about kids struggling and coming off of summer break and having really exciting sleep patterns over the summer schedule and really how to get our kids back on track. So welcome, Amy.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. My first podcast, so it's great.
That's okay. That's okay. We've all learned together. And I think that's the best part of this, that we've been able to give this to our community and outreach with a lot of different topics that are coming in. Yeah. So we're really glad that you were able to join us today.
Yeah,
because the parents are starting to struggle. We're going to our third week of school.
Yeah. And
we ended up with an early dismissal because of heat last week. The kids are cranky because of the heat.
Yep, same thing by me. Yeah.
Yes. So please give us some insight. What can our parents do out there to try to get their kids on a level?
Absolutely. I did a workshop about a month ago at the local library. I'm from Guilford. And, you try as soon as possible to try to get them back on track. I always say 2 to 3 weeks before school starts, but it's not too late. So now that school has started, there's a few general rules of thumb that, people might think of already. I mean, just as simple as trying not to make a lot of plans the first month of school. Really try to honor, having dinner on time if you can, getting them to bed. I would say one of the biggest things is if you don't have a bedtime routine in place, you want to make sure, it's about half an hour long. You have the kids unwind. They might do a quiet puzzle. There might be a little story. It's, letting them know it's getting time for quiet. We're dimming lights. We're all of that whole 9 yards. But really, sometimes it's a problem at bedtime with some kids if there's resistance or they stall. If especially even toddlers, they're great stallers.
Absolutely.
So some moms have found a lot of help with a timer where, let's say, they're having a bath. Bath is part of bedtime routine, but they're stalling to get out. So instead of mom saying, okay, it's time to get out, you can use the timer and say, oh, the timer's going off, time to get out of the bath and move on and keep going. Same thing with brushing teeth and whatever else.
Right, so it takes the struggle away from the parent or the caregiver and really gives the responsibility to the timer.
Right, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think one of the things also I think that I'd like you to address is the consistency.
Yes.
That parents,
it's key.
It takes longer than just 1 or 2 nights.
Oh, yes.
And they have to stick with it. And I know that it's hard decisions to make and to change what they're doing. And especially our kids are so busy that it could be before 7 o'clock that they even get home. And I think it makes it a difficult transition to get home and then, okay, half an hour or an hour later set a bedtime.
Yeah.
So sometimes it might not be that it sounds like it's a feasible thing for them to be in bed at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock.
Right.
Is there a general rule, do you think, for what time of night you should start thinking for age?
There is.
Because I think that's something, if they can rely on that at certain age, this is when they really should start to go to bed.
Yeah. And well, you know what, even I'll address that in a second, but I was thinking as you were speaking, another thing is too, let's say they're going to bed at like 10 o'clock right now. You don't want to or 11, whatever it might be, you don't want to all of a sudden, shoot them in bed at 8. I mean, that's not going to work. That's not feasible. And it also isn't great for their sleep cycle to even out. So what you would do is you would do 15-minute increments for 3 cycles, like 3 nights. Okay. So if, let's say you're going to start Friday night, whatever's your first night you're going to start. So instead of 10 o'clock being the bedtime, you're going to do 9:45 for 3 nights. Then you're going to do 9:30 for 3 nights. Then you're going to do 9:15 for 3 nights, and so on until you get them to where you want them to be. Room darkening shades work really well. Let's say, it's a 5-year-old and they're saying, but mommy, it's still, we don't have the time change yet. And they're saying, oh, it's still light out. I don't want to go to bed yet.
Or lights coming through their window, because we have some fabulous street lights in our town that are very super bright.
Yeah, utilize those shades right away. Put them down before you even bring them upstairs if your bedrooms are upstairs. That could be something. But, they say that, toddlers and even up to elementary school age kids really should be in bed by 8 o'clock. Even so, if they're 2 or if they're 12, if you have, let's say, your 2 or 3-year-old that has to get up at 7:30 in the morning, they should really be in bed around 7:30, 8 o'clock, because they need like 12 hours of sleep.
Yes.
And even like a 6, 7, 8-year-old, they need a good 10 hours of sleep.
Yes.
To really be able to, be at their optimal energy level and not feeling sluggish.
I think that's great advice. I have a lot of friends with school-age kids, and over the summer, they've sort of transitioned to,
yes, I was
waking up at 9 a.m., 10 a.m. These kids are, I'm not blessed with those children. My kids are up at 6 a.m. Regardless of bedtime. But some have that, and I know now they're struggling because those kids want to sleep in till 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and you've got to be on the bus by 8.
Well, it's hard. You can't just snap your fingers and all of a sudden be back to like an 8 to 8 schedule or whatever, So, it's tough.
It makes sense that small increments of changes and eventually they'll even out. And you just have to ride the wave, so to speak.
I know. And, every family's different. And, when I work with families, I kind of figure out what their schedule is like, what mom and dad have going on, work schedule versus the kids' school and sports and everything. It's tough, but there's little tricks. And, let's say Sunday is a day where everyone's kind of home. Maybe that's your day to plan the meals for the week, the dinners, so that when you're home from soccer at 7, you have it almost ready to go, eat quick, and then you get ready for bed,
Right. Little tweaks for every family.
Right.
So that's an interesting segue into what Amy does for a living. She helps families from infancy. I noticed with newborns, you have a newborn package.
Yeah.
All the way up through school aged and maybe even later. Can you speak to that? Kind of what you do, how you do it, and how families might reach out to you starting right from the beginning to try to create positive sleep cycles?
Well, that's the thing. The sooner you start, the better.
Absolutely.
True of my, I have a 3-year-old and a 9-month-old, and I knew right away what to do with my 9-month-old. She started sleeping through the night at like 7 weeks. And she's
lucky
a great...
you.
I know.
I know. Everybody that's listening is going, lucky her. Yes.
But I knew what to do. There's a lot of sleep crutches and sleep props that people have with infants. And if you don't eventually segue out of them, you most often, have a toddler on your hands that is not sleeping well, sleeping in mom and dad's bed, resisting, getting out of bed if they're not in the crib anymore. And it becomes a vicious cycle, and it doesn't typically get better until, school age, or, I've heard of people with 5-year-old and 7-year-olds that are still having issues,
Absolutely.
Right. But, every kid is different, and sleep needs are a little different. So what I do is, I get together with the parents, they fill out a questionnaire, and I develop a sleep plan based on the kids' needs and the parents' needs and all of that, and we work together about 2 to 3 weeks through email, phone call, and sometimes I tweak, the timing of naps and what time they're going to bed based on what I'm seeing in a sleep log. So the parents, fill out a sleep log throughout the time we're working together. And, they just really, consistency is key. I know we mentioned that earlier.
Yes, it's so important. And I know that it's hard. It's so hard for a lot of the parents. And one of the things that I hear is that they feel guilty because they themselves, with their work schedule, or they've got after school care, they pick up their kids so late, then they want to spend that extra time with them, and will keep them up later at night, feeling that that's time with them or quality time, which might not be the best quality time with them, because those kids by then are so exhausted and overtired.
Exactly.
So it's hard to make that transition to knowing that they need to go to bed because they're going to be better functioning. But you working with them and setting up a game plan for them, I think is so important.
It is, yeah. It's very helpful.
I'm reflecting back to my own kids. They're 7 and 9 now, and I'm curious as to sleep props. And could you give me an example? Say you bring your newborn home from the hospital. You've got this brand new perfect baby that you have all these hopes and dreams for. Yeah. He's gonna sleep through the night. All these things that new parents say. Yeah. What would be, if you had a new mom and dad walking through the door, what would be kind of the first thing that you might say as a piece of advice in terms of sleep?
So my advice would be, when you have a newborn, they're used to being in the womb. And I'm not saying you're going to throw them into a bassinet and leave them to scream. That's not it. But, you're going to do the 5 S's. You're going to soothe them. You're going to swaddle. Okay. You're going to shush. You might rock them. You are going to do those things. But what you are also going to do is set goals, and you're going to try to, a newborn is supposed to go back to sleep no more than an hour. They have stamina of about 45 minutes. Right. So you're going to get them to sleep before they're overtired, and you're going to make it a goal that one of those naps, they nap like maybe 8 times a day. Right. It's a lot. One of those naps, you're going to just put them down, and they're going to fall asleep. You have to set certain goals, and you have to start relenting on some of your props so that it doesn't become a dependency. Right. So it's kind of a tricky gray area. So not always
sticking them in the swing so that they constantly get used to the swinging motion.
Or not completely rocking them in your arms till they fall asleep.
I was going to say, or carrying them around continually.
Right. You want to take little breaks here and there. Right. Yeah. Okay. And of course you're going to need those moments where they fall asleep on you and you snuggle. They're only little for so long, but you don't want to be doing that every single time.
Right. Okay. So it's a little bit of conditioning so that they feel safe in both areas.
Yes. And the same
Mom's
thing I
arms
did.
And in my crib.
Right. And I did that with Nora. We had our moments where she fell asleep on me, and I loved it, and I cherished it.
Absolutely.
But I'm not going to do it every time, because then she's never going to learn independent sleep, and it's going to become more of a nightmare once I try to get her to sleep.
Right.
Yeah, independently.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I love that you'll meet with parents and really talk about their goals, because every parent has a different set of goals and a different set of beliefs around where kids should sleep and how they should sleep. Right. So you sit down, you talk about those things, and you really create a plan that works for them specifically. Right. It's, one way is not the same for every family.
Very true.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
So can you give us some information about how to reach you?
Absolutely, families? So my little business is called Little Sleep Fairy. Okay. I do have a website. I'm on Facebook. Okay. The best way to reach me is probably email, because I check that very frequently. So that's littlesleepfairy.com. That's the website.
Okay.
.com.
Okay, so wipe that out. Yeah, we're just going to go next.
So it's Lil sleepfairy @gmail.com.
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay, and you can always reach out to Mary and I at Portland Youth Services, because I have Amy's contact as well, if you're interested in reaching out to her for services.
Yep. We're just so glad that you joined us today.
Yeah,
I think it is an important topic, and one of the things that when you were saying that you have the newborn, I think all of us, no matter how old our children are, remember those moments of that feeling of having that little snuggle on your chest. Yeah. And sometimes it's that you want it for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
As much as you want it for your child. But I think you have to break yourself of that too. And it's just to move the children on and to better
finding the happy medium of balance.
It is. And I think sometimes sleep gets kind of thrown on the back burner. You're making sure they're fed, you're making sure you're bathing them, but you gotta make sure they're sleeping. It's important for the mom and dad as well
to sleep. Yes,
absolutely. I've had so many people tell me what a struggle in their marriage it's been because their kids aren't sleeping, and then they're not sleeping.
Yes.
I
tease my she's going to be 10 in February. I tease her all the time because for the first few weeks of her life, she was a brand new baby. I was a brand new mom, and she screamed by 3 o'clock because I didn't realize quite how to put her to sleep before she reached that overtired period.
And I did the same thing with my first,
and it was
because I didn't have this training yet.
It was about 2 months
of a nightmare. I totally
understand.
Cried.
My husband came home, and he would pace her to sleep.
Yeah.
And then we figured it out. So the second baby, you could bet I rocked that baby. I put that baby down, and we had a better sleep pattern.
Right.
And so I think it's just.
That's it too.
Those
honestly,
little things.
One of the biggest things some people find a benefit from with me is me actually putting their kid on a schedule, and they can see, this is how much awake time versus when I should try putting them down. It's a big deal. You don't realize it.
So maybe the take-home message is, if you are struggling as a new mom or dad or a new caregiver, really, take the opportunity, instead of having those tears every night of what is wrong with my child, what is wrong with me as a parent, maybe reach out to Amy. Reach out to somebody. Because that would really have saved me a lot of tears.
Oh, me too.
Yes.
Me too.
To have somebody
tears
just
and
say,
frustration.
sweetheart, she's just overtired. Rock her a little bit. 20 minutes earlier, you would have saved yourself a complete meltdown.
And what a difference 20 minutes makes, I'm telling you.
Absolutely.
Even 15,
Cool. So anyway, reach out, and we're happy you were here. And thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and until the next time. We hope you all have felt the energy around this table. I'm Mary Pont, Director of Portland Youth Services.
And I'm Allison Behnke, the Outreach Coordinator here for the town of Portland. We thank you for listening, and we look forward to joining you next month.